All right. Hello, everybody. And here we are in Cubase, taking a look this week in our exploration series at Hive. Hive 2, made by U-he, is one of the synthesizers that a lot of people have been talking about because of the wavetable synthesis and because of some unique features and traits that this thing has that other synthesizers don't have. So for those of you who were here weeks ago, we did cover Diva, and before that, we did cover Zebra or Zebra. And those two synthesizers are quite different. This one is, not equal to any of those two, and they all have their particular traits, and that's why U-he is kind of a very cool brand for virtual synthesizers because they haven't been stepping on their own toes when they build synths. They have modulars, they have old schoolers, they have some sort of more evolved new style synthesizers, and then they have some classics like Repro and things. So, checking everything here. Okay, audio works. Here we go. I would say let's just dive in. Let's initialize the hell out of this, and I'll tell you about. That's taking a bit too long. Let me go here, local. There should be init somewhere. Let's search for it. Init. Initialize. No, it's not here. Word. Oh, there we go. Boom. So that's our initialization. Yeah, that sounds pretty much like a very good sawtooth. So I came around Hive 2 when I needed some evolving pads and wavetable synthesis things. I think a couple years ago, here at in Berlin at Fuseroom, and I remember I was looking for something to blend some virtual strings in, something like that, and I didn't want to go with the usual suspects, and I found out about Hive 2. Now I scouted some of the presets, and I found out, man, like I was expecting this synthesizer to be pretty straightforward and have, very good sound, but I was surprised by how complicated and evolving it can get. So if you're looking for something that has a way of, infinitely looping and droning, if you're making dark ambient music, if you're making anything that has evolving drones, if you're making heavy atonal sound design, this thing shines. And it's fun because it's not the only thing that it can do. It's not a synthesizer where you have granular stuff and things that very esoteric. It's a synth that can get down to earth and do everything that's basically to be expected from a synth, but it's also a very, very complicated engines that allows you to create a lot of evolving things. There's some presets. There's one preset, for example, that I can just name out of the blue, which is called Ethersphere. And all right, because it's very fun to talk about the synths, but I think the music should talk about it. So do I have a keyboard here? Yeah. But I would rather use my Akai, MPK, because it's very close to me and I don't have to like blend over. So I have a mod wheel here that you can see me touching, right? And let's recall the preset again just to make sure I haven't changed it. Now you play this patch. I think this one was one of the first patches that I opened and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I started moving the mod wheel and you can hear immediately that this synth does things that a lot of others, they really actually don't. So allow me to just play a G minor because we have to play sad stuff anyway. Even a power chord like root fifth, right? And I'm gonna move the mod wheel. Right? And you say like, okay, well, there's some filtering going on and stuff. Now, if I play a G, lower octave, there's a way of evolving in the Lfos and stuff that can keep you droning for like indefinitely. And what I really like about this is how subtle the synth engine can be. If you switch, I think everybody has taken a look at the top notch here thing, which is like synth engine, clean, normal, and dirty. If you bring it to dirty and you still play that, I don't know, low D, there are some non-linearities in the sound. That, you know, the moment you find that right exact spot in the mod wheel, here, you can drone this thing indefinitely, and it still has that variation that we really look forward to having any kind of electronic patch. I think in electronic composition that I have, there's always the issue and the question that comes around a lot is like, how do you go from linear writing, from single tracks, to having something that is still constantly keeping the mood, for example, for a video game soundtrack, but is not exactly looping 4 bars indefinitely, because the ear of the listener playing the video game, for example, or listening to the soundtrack will immediately catch the 4 bars, and it will become boring very easily. So it's synths like these and envelopes like this, and some things that we will take a look at. You know, when I heard these Ethersphere, I was like, wow, how the heck did they do it? It's just not Lfos. It's just, you know, random hole. There's things we'll see. So it's an amazing synth to have for any need in evolving soundscapes that don't go too far, that have a lot of mass, a lot of sound, and things that need to stay on topic of some kind of leitmotif that you create, but they still breathe and move. And it's kind of very hard sometimes to have something that changes but doesn't change that much, but it's not too static. I don't even know how to explain it very well, but I think I put it the right way. You want things to be evolving and changing, but you don't want to use 300 million tracks. So sometimes just the fact that the synthesizer is able to breathe organically is something that has to be sought after by, you know, every composer. So I'll try and go as fast as I can on some of the things that I think are basic, because I was asked to write a very small sort of tribute song, like a small piece, and we might be able to do it today. I hope. I have an idea of what I want to write and how and why, and we can use Hive for the most part, because these that I have to write is going to be like a small intro piece, and then there's going to be a more orchestral part, but it will be a different song, a different track entirely. They won't be matching. So I need to write something very simple, which could work with this demonstration, which is going to be better than just talking about it. So the usual suspects: top bar, the title of your synth, the poly mode, mono, legato, or duophonic, the quantity of the notes that you want to have Hive play, transpose, fine tune, the preset area, undo and redo, very much appreciated, presets, possibility to save, obviously, master output, U-he logo, hello U-he, and then the wheel, the settings wheel, where you can set MIDI learn, where you can set per instance control of MIDI tables. Very cool if you have a lot of, like, if you do live sets, for example, this is very important to have. And then general preferences. If you want raster, how big you want the interface to be. For example, we could put it at 120 because everybody wants to be able sometimes to read something, especially when you're getting older. If you want to take anti-aliasing off, the gamma of brighter and darker. I don't even know if that works in here. The auto versioning, save presets too. There's also base latency, which I have in off. I talked with the people at U-he, and it seems that if your DAW doesn't handle the 16 samples of base latency, which is kind of a safety feature, you will know immediately because the software will crash probably, or the plugin won't play correctly. So here you can set a safe 16 samples. They say that they recommend to leave the base latency setting at 16 unless your host supports regular buffer sizes. No idea. I switched it. I can't really tell the difference. I mean, you have 16 more samples of latency, but, Control A default, breath, here you can change the Midi Controls slew rate, fast. So that's pretty much it. Every U-he synthesizer has this kind of stuff. So proceeding, going top to bottom, going down, look who's here. There's a symmetrical interface. So first off, I really like the fact that they use hexagon because it's like very science fiction and very cyberpunk. I leave off the hexagon shape. I don't know why. It's just something that immediately tells me like, I don't know. It's just something that it immediately puts us in the sort of a science fiction, modern, high-tech, cyberpunk setting. It's been used a lot for movies, and there's got to be a psychological reason behind it, I'm sure. So it's a symmetrical interface. You have oscillators 1 and 2, left and right. They both have, they're mirrored, basically. The sub-oscillator 1 is towards the center, and sub-oscillator 2 is towards the center as well. Then you have filter 1, and you have filter 2. So we should initialize this thing again. How did we find init before? That was a good one, right? I wrote init here, and then I did this. Ha! Bzz. That's it. Awesome. So oscillator 1, filter 1, oscillator 2, filter 2, very self-explanatory. Sub-oscillator 1 and sub-oscillator 2. You can solo these things when you have complicated patches. You want to hear something, you can put something in solo and it will, select the signal routing. And basically the first thing that is not that intuitive but becomes very easy to understand is that if you want to route oscillator 1 to filter 1, you have to turn on oscillator 1. And if you want to route oscillator 1 to filter 2, you just turn on oscillator 1 in the field that belongs to filter 2. So you can run one oscillator to both filters. You can run both oscillators to a single filter. And you can even put these things in parallel or in series. So if I want to send the sawtooth, for example, to filter 1, I just do this. If everything is not selected, I get no sound. No surprise, right? So here, if I do oscillator 1, now I have oscillator 1 going through filter 1. If I go oscillator 1 on filter 2, now I can pick a different filter. And I have both filters working through, oscillator 1 and affecting it. So this was probably the first thing that I had to understand, like, okay, now I get it, because there's no wires, obviously. There's no cables that, you can look at and see where things are connected. So you can obviously link the two, which will completely link the whole panel on the right to the left. There's some patches that use this, but, it's still a cool feature to have, although it's very cool to have things, that are different. So oscillators. The oscillators have pretty much the controls that we would expect from every software synthesizers. There's a detuning. Let's put this to. There's a detuning that acts as a single voice detune, but there's a detuning that also works for sort of a unison mode. So we can pick, for example, 6 sawtooths, and we can go. Right? So the width control controls how wide we want this stack of 6 sawtooths to be. So you can hear it, right? Even if the tuning is at 0, you get a sort of a analog thing. I don't know, in clean mode, it still does that. So they're not 100% aligned, and this makes it for the sound to be able to become wider. So if you keep it some kind of width, and you also detune it, we can go up to 16 people. This is a lot. Wow. I have to say this is, and it's not just my quote, I heard it, it's one of the synths that has the better, I think has a kind of a very musical unison, because I don't really use a lot of JP8000 Super Soul. I'm not that kind of guy, but this one sounds really good. So then you have octaves, then you have semitones, you can pan the oscillator, and most importantly, you can pick how phase resets. So if we go to scope, which is a very nice feature that this thing has, you can see we can see the waveform, and a lot of U-he plugs have a very mesmerizing scopes, which I like to look at from time to time. Okay, what can we do here? We can put it back at 1 and we can decide on the phase. For example, if we want the phase to be random or if we want to flow with it. So every time I play that, the phase is gonna flow with the point that I think was released at the moment it was detached. If we reset it, it's a very useful feature for bass synthesizers, for example, because when you have a reset, you're gonna make sure that every time I trigger a note, the phase of the sawtooth is gonna reset. If I go random, it's not always the same. Let me try square, for example. Well, we can see it here if we zoom in. Let me see. Center, freeze. You see a lot of squares, for example. And we're resetting every time I play. And this is very useful, again, for bass sounds. But on the other hand, if you have pads or evolving things, maybe the reset of the phase is just gonna set you to trigger the sound exactly and make it a little bit of a machine sounding thing. So you may wanna go on random, for example, or even flow. There's a specific LFO for vibrato. Vibrato. Nice, which you can set here at the bottom. When you have keys, you have a vibrato LFO, you can set the rate and the delay. So I went at the bottom on the interface near the pitch wheel and mod wheel. And it's nice because it's a dedicated LFO, so you can use that. And it's gonna affect the vibrato of both the oscillator and the sub oscillator. So that's also something to remember. Then again, you have a sub. The sub has a volume thing. So let's drop the volume here. And let's select sub 1 through the filter. So now sub oscillator 1 is going to filter 1. You can pick the volume and you can tune it. So if we go here and you keep this guy, the tuning of the sub oscillator, to 0, you essentially have a secondary oscillator, like oscillator 1B. And you have a limited range of waveforms that you can pick from sine, sawtooth, triangle, half, narrow, all this stuff. Right? Like a pulse, half pulse, full square, and so on and so forth. But you can also clone the oscillator 1 waveform, which is pretty good. And sub oscillator 2 can also do the same. So when you select like os, you have the same waveform that the oscillator 1 has. And this allows you to go, for example, to wavetable and pick one of the many wavetables that you have here. You can even import your own stuff because U-he allows you to print a specific format, UHM, which is going to allow you to import your own waveforms for your wavetables. How cool is that? That's pretty good. So, if you go to wavetable, we'll see that there's a lot more functions that are to be triggered. So let's go back to sawtooth for a second and let's finish here. So you have this, which is going to be very cool. And remember, you have to route the sub oscillator to the filter independently from oscillator 1. So using only oscillator 1 is not gonna bring sub oscillator 1 into the filter, for example. Either it's 1 or 2, right? That's pretty much it. You have the same exact thing on the right, and you have, as I said, the Synth Engine here in the middle, which is what my eye was immediately caught to. So clean, normal, and dirty are ways from U-he to determine the way this synthesizer works. So the manual explains it very well, but in general, things become non-linear the more you go from clean to dirty. And resonance becomes non-linear, filter cutoff becomes non-linear, the envelopes are no longer linear. So the behavior, you tried it with a patch like Ethersphere, completely changes, and you have resonances and you have things that break down in dirty mode, which I think really make the difference in this sign, in this Hive synth, if you really want things to be very cohesive and like organic. Organic is the adjective that comes to mind more. So I don't know if we have a single oscillator. Oh, you can hear dirty. Sounds louder, but it also looks different, I would say. I use my mouse here. Right, then we'll go to dirty. So even with a single oscillator and filter with nothing there, it already sounds different. And imagine what it does to a full patch, right, when you do that. So oscillators are done. Then you have the filters. The filters in general are low pass 24 and 12, band pass, high pass, band reject, and peaking, which for those of you who don't know, it's just a single bell EQ-like thing. Right? They, as I said, they have a mixer matrix, so you can turn, different things on and off to route things to the filter. You can see, I think it's very cool that you can see the actual thing going on. So everything in Hive is really visual, and I think it also makes for a great synthesizer for like beginner synths, for example. The people that are, sometimes you're new, you want to see how things move around. Everything here, oscillators and filters really, really behave very smoothly while being affected by other parts of the synth. So that's kind of useful. For now, nothing is being affected by Lfos or envelopes, so it looks pretty static. But you'll see that things are gonna change once we start going into the modulation. So again, we have cutoff, we have resonance, we have input, we have volume, which is the output. We have key follow, which is, you remember, everybody pretty much knows, it's a way for the filter cutoff to move according to the key, the octave and the key you're playing in. Because sometimes you're playing a note that is above the cutoff point or below the cutoff point if it's a high-pass filter. And that causes the sound to not be audible because you're playing a note that's beyond the cutoff point. So key follow allows you to open or close, like have the filter follow, that's why it's called key follow. The filter follows the key that you're playing, and you can, it's this knob is a multiplier, so the higher you set it, the more the filter is gonna open depending on the key you're playing. It's pretty typical of every synthesizer. And here you have mod envelope and modulation envelope and LFO. So for example, LFO 1 or 2 is going to decide which LFO this knob is going to be affected from. So you have two LFOs, one is left and one is right. Generally number 2 is on the right and generally number 1 is on the left. And you can, for example, have filter 1 be modified by LFO 2 if you need, or filter 2 be modified by LFO 1. And the knob here represents the amount of influence that the LFO has on, in this case, the filter. So if we have a triangle LFO, we see it move because the LFO1 in the shape of a triangle is now affecting the low pass cutoff point. So the cutoff point is moving with this triangle. So I think makes sense that we go to the LFO, which has the usual suspects, triangle, so up, so down, square, blah, 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 all this stuff. You can set the phase point at which the LFO will start. You can set the speed as a multiplier. But remember, and this is a very cool thing, very easy to learn, the base unit of your LFO rate is a time-based. So you can set it to quarter note, right? And you still have a rate. So the rate is a multiplier of the time base, And you can, in very nice U-he style, which I find very useful, you can polarize these LFO. And again, in this synth, it's really easy to explain and to understand what polarity is. You see this dashed line, right? It tells you that the LFO values float symmetrically around the zero. So you come from below zero, go up above zero, and then you go back to below zero. But if you polarize, then your LFO becomes unipolar. So the lowest you can go is zero, and you can only have positive values. So look at what happens with the low-pass filter, right? The cutoff point is pretty much halfway through. And if we go here, when we polarize it, we only go above the cutoff value. But if we remove the polarization, the time remains the same, but the values that we're modifying are only going from your cutoff point over that. And this is so useful because sometimes it's very easy to set a limit cutoff point and say, okay, beyond this point, you will not go. So it's very, very, very useful. I think this is one of the features that immediately, I don't know, kind of made LFOs work faster. There's some people that are very used to it, but there's some, for example, bass lines and stuff you never wanted to be bipolar, for example. So you can pick everything here. The cool thing is that you see all of these crosshairs. You can assign things to be modified by the LFO just by clicking and dragging. And you can even use it in the scope. So if you use it in the scope, we're now looking at LFO1. This is really cool. We're now looking at the LFO, which as usual is oscillating regardless of us playing or not. And when we push a key down, we can actually see the LFO. So I think this is a very, very nice synth also to teach somebody synthesis, because it's very, very easy to see things around. Look at this. We're now going so up, right? And we can now see the LFO going, in a different shape. Then we can, if we de-unipolarize, so we go back to plus and minus, we still see the zero line on the x-axis, and we go, above and beyond, above and below. Then we polarize it. And this is very cool. Every time you see a target, a crosshair, you can, jump things off and just see things. So here, it would be very cool to know. If you want to reset this, I was saying it would be very cool to know how to reset this. We can set the parameters here. So you have 4 parameters that you can put in your scope. So if you have none, you see audio L and audio right. If we put LFO1 and then we put, for example, LFO2, we now see both LFOs. We lost the possibility of seeing how our sound looks like, but we can see this. So, but if we see, if we go function, shape, sequencer, gate, for example, now we have 3 things. And if we go mod wheel, now we have 4 things. See, it's tracking my mod wheel. Right, so this is very useful for, again, looking at things, which sometimes, it's very useful, especially if you're learning. So LFOs are identical, and they have a rate, but they have a restart time. So if you sync it, let's do this. If we sync it, we're going to sync the phase of the LFO, which is a polyphonic LFO, to every note that we play. So every time we play, we're always going to have the same LFO affecting different notes of our polyphony, but they're going to be in sync. If we gate it, you see, and I trigger the second note halfway through while the LFO is ramping up, the second note's gonna start from the initial phase, and so we have two notes with two phases. Which is very different from this. So sometimes, I don't know your sound just doesn't work the way you would expect, and you think, okay, maybe it's the filter, maybe it's the phase of the oscillator, maybe it's the waveform. It could very well be that you have polyphonic LFOs and you don't want to have polyphonic LFOs. You know, that could be that. The single is as if you had a single LFO. Right? Instead of sync, you see, it sounds different. And random, it says it's a random thing. Very simple. So they're still independent, but they're randomized. So I like single, for example, most of the time. I don't know, but it depends on the patch. That's it for LFOs. Then you have an amp modulation and you have a different modulation. So the first amp modulation is pretty self-explanatory. Let's reset these. Obviously, okay, you can even set negative quantities. So now we're going... Right? So it zeroes up at 12 o'clock and you can take out minus plus or you can go plus minus. Okay, that's, you know, most of the controls here on new synths have this possibility. And you can even polarize. Right? If you polarize it, and so you have just positive values, if you go negatively, you only have negative values. So you start from that point and you go down, or you start from that point and go up. You know, positive and negative. Right? Makes pretty much sense. So let's take our LFO out of the question. And let's go back to amp. So pretty much simple ADSR. Right? So nothing weird to be expected. You can affect the amp to, let's see the amp, for example. Do I see it? Yeah. Oh, amp envelope. I have two now. I don't want two. Here. Or you can see how it goes. And you can see that it's a non-linear release. But it's a linear attack. Let me see if on dirty we have different behavior. Yes, we do. So now you see the attack is no longer linear. It's non-linear. It's logarithmic. You know? So, pretty cool. Because the behavior changes again. The whole synth just changes age, status, and stuff. So you can still trigger this as a gate, which is usually the normal way. You can use it as a one-shot. And if I use it as a one-shot, even if I let go of my key, the amp envelope's gonna be, performed from start to end, ADSR. But if I was in gate, well, what doesn't change. Right. So I let go of my key and the attack still kept going. So A, D, and S are being affected by the one-shot versus gate. If I am in gate and I'm still ramping up and I let go of my key, the sound closes. Boom, gone. But if I'm in one shot, I let go of my key, I'm still going up and down, right? As if I had let go. You can then go LFO 1. So now we can have LFO 1 affect amp 1. Ooh, it's very nice. Right? So we're now opening and closing depending on LFO1. It's pretty nice. And we can have velocity affect that. Same exact thing for modulation. So modulation 1 is something we can use here, for example, as mod envelope. And we can do, see, we can do this. We're now affecting the filter through the mod 1. And we can take a look at mod 1, for example, or we can, you know, say I want mod 1 here. Don't show me anything else here. Very nice. But also, you know, something that a lot of other synths. You can have velocity again influence your thing. And here you have again gate, one shot, LFO1 and LFO2. So up until here, it's pretty much, you know, very cool synth, sounding great, great scope. But the things that really open up are the function generator and also the shape a little bit. But function was really, really cool. So since it's getting darker here, let me go back and let me fix this. Darkness, my friend. All right. It's not much better. It's not much better, but at least you can see me, right? Boom. Here we are, back. It's gonna get better probably soon. So, function generator. The function generator is something that they borrowed from. I think everybody says that function generators are a typical modular synth module. And which is not entirely true, but I know people that have modular synths and they do have quite a lot of function generators and they really, really like them. So what does a function generator do? You can pick an input of any parameter that you have, for example, LFO, amp, mod, and you can affect these through a function generator. So if we have, for example, LFO1, let me see if we can, you know, target this. You see what this is doing. So we have three functions in function 1, and they are envelope, they're rise, and they're steal. So if we set these, for example, to envelope, we now have a function generator that is affecting, let me see if I can zoom this guy in, right on, see? So every time the input, which is the LFO1, is moving, we have a specific attack and a specific decay and even a specific slope that we can set, which you see is changing shape of this thing. And I think if I didn't have a scope viewer, it would be kind of hard to know what that would do because I'm not a modular guy myself. So with the slope at 0, you can see we have this sort of linear up and down. If we slope it up to positive, we're changing shape of this. And if we slope it down, we're pretty much having the same, you know, symmetrical kind of thing. So attack and, you know, decay can work on anything that you want. So they can work on cutoff. And in this case, we have attack. And let me take mod M here out. And we can assign it here. So now the filter is completely static. But we can say that if I click and drag on this red dot, I can tell the function generator to have that much of an influence on the cutoff. So you see what this is doing, right? And the first thing I did when I learned this synth was I did the same exact thing on the Oscillator 2. So same exact sawtooth, no detuning, width at 0. And I took Oscillator 2 through it. I took the same exact low pass, same exact values, sort of. I'm not interested in the sound, but rather in how the function generator changes things. And I put LFO2 to sine and quarter notes, so they were pretty much identical. And then I did, okay, how does this sound? And then I took LFO2. And I said, okay, if I have a sine, they're exactly identical. They have a gate. Their time base is 1/4 note. This is how the filter moves. And how about oscillator 1, which is not going through LFO1, is using LFO1 to trigger the function generator, which then goes to the envelope. It's fantastic because it's taking the input of LFO1 and is generating a function out of it. That's why it's called the function generator. If we use rise instead, we're only gonna have signal when the LFO is rising. So when the input values are rising. As long as they're increasing in value, they're gonna be taken by the function generator and they're gonna be used. And if we use still, you kind of guessed it, I hope, we're only generating functions from input values that are staying still. So that's gonna be kind of hard to do that. Let me see. Now we have rise. Right? So what are we doing here? As long as these rises, we are applying the attack and release. So it's an envelope. But we're applying the function generator only when it listens to something that is rising. So obviously the cool thing is that if you go to square high low, square low high, you have a fairly predictable way of using a function generator. But if you go to random hold, which is random fixed values, or you go to random glide, which is random smooth values, then you really don't know when you're gonna rise, right? You know when you're gonna have envelope movement, that's for sure, but you're never gonna know when you're gonna rise. So we could do this, we could try. You see, if the values, this is totally random. And that's how you get the drones that we heard, how we get things to kind of evolve around. You know, if we increase the rate, the function is going to be there. If we do still, every time the glide is going to be still, the LFO1's still, then we have a generation. We're generating values to feed the cutoff to with, right? Now the function 2 is the first one that doesn't have the same exact parameters of function 1. So you have envelope, yes, but you do have fall and you do have move. So what this means is that as long as the values are moving, we're going to have function being generated for our target. And when we have fall, as long as values are falling, which is the opposite of rising, we are going to have, you know, something that gets passed to our target value. So you can have function 1 go to hear sort of values that are rising, while on the other hand, you can have function 2 listen to things that are falling. And that's how you get these sort of more evolving sounds, or, you know, different paths that behave differently, but kind of never intersect each other in a way, which can be very musical. Now, here you can have the mode working on, for example, envelope, which was the one way we had now. So if we go to env and we have, you know, for example, this half value, and we want to take a look at this as well. Okay, function 1, oh, we already had it. So green, nope. All right, so we see the function 1 envelope and we see how it looks like. And we have this. We have LFO1, for example, which is going completely random, but we can go so up and down. And now we see that as long as it's moving, it's generating attack and release. So in theory, it would want to move sort of like this, right? So let's do it like this. So now we can see LFO1, and we can see how LFO1 through the function generator is changing. So in like this way, what I'm doing is I'm practically reversing the so. So if I go so down, now we're identical, because as long as it's moving, I have the same thing. But if I increase, actually, let's decrease the delay, the decay. You see what's going on, right? Like I have a very short decay now. And if I go longer, now I'm redesigning this. But you see what's going on here. It's a very different behavior from the LFO. The original values of the LFO wouldn't allow me to do this, especially if I bring in some attack and I, decrease this. So, and this is just for, look at this. This is completely different than what I would have on LFO. And this is the explanation of why would you need a function generator? Well, people in the modular synthesizers world, they have kind of a hype for drones and a hype for evolving atonal stuff. They really can't leave off just LFOs. And that's why function generators are very popular, because they allow you like a layer of additional sound shaping. Look at this, like it can get very complicated. So this is just for envelope. If we go to rise, now all of a sudden we are only triggering things when we're raising in value. So, we can get a completely different shapes. And this is still with LFO1. We could use an amp mod. We could use, another modulation source, for example, mod 1. And that will only trigger when we're triggering the modulation. And that is also going to happen, for example, just on rise on steel or envelope. So it can get very complicated. If we move this from envelope to one shot, then we're going to use this exactly like the one shot on trigger. It's going to follow attack and decay, and it's never going to stop during the attack phase if I let go of the key. Cycle is going to keep cycling the value. See, if I go with envelope, we have these. But if I cycle, it's going to go with the trigger right on. So it's gonna cycle instead of working as an envelope. Oh, it's really cool. So now we're using rise. Now you might say, well, that's pretty similar to a polarized unipolar LFO. Yeah, it could be, of course. But it just doesn't sound exactly the same if you altered the phase cycles of the two, obviously. Then you have a cycle on-off. And that's where the function generator starts to really behave differently. You can see that. And remember, we're in clean mode. If we go to dirty mode, well, they're not entirely different, but they're still a little bit different. Then we have follow, which is probably going to follow the source. What's the difference with envelope? Let's try this. Right on, okay, yes. Makes sense. With envelope, we're forcing the A and D, but with follow, we're actually following the source, and we are adapting with this mode, the A and D, to the LFO, or the input source. Follow with gate is actually not going to do anything until we trigger. Then it stops. But if you see, if I go on follow and I have something that is releasing, I'm still going to have the function generator, follow up. Then the other very important thing that this thing has is that it has a shape, how is it called? Like a shape sequencer. So if we take this out of the question, let's see, where are we moving here? Let's go none. All right. So we're still affecting this. That's very cool, because we have something here. Function amp. You see, our matrix still has... Okay, we're back to the very normal sound. So what else here? The shape sequencer. You see these 8 steps. These are actually 8 steps multiplied by 4 different sequencers, A, B, C, and D. So every time you are in your matrix, you can tell the matrix that you want the shape sequencer to affect something. So it's kind of a more complicated envelope. So here you can choose what kind of waveform, I would say, or envelope form you want to have. And in this case, they're all sawtooths, for example. And we can have the input of these be affecting, for example, our cutoff, which is, our favorite way of learning how these things are. So if we set this guy to here, now you see that this guy is going there, but I should be able to see something here. Let me reset these guys. So we're set at 1/8. We're setting loop order. We can go backwards. We can go, forward. We can have a mono or single. But what we want to have here, which is actually not yet happening. Let me see. We have init. Yes. Let's initialize everything. And we can have these work as a more complicated envelope, basically. So we have single, polyphonic. Single is going to be like the LFO with just 1. And the time base is going to be, your basic time base. So now we have quarter notes, sort of an arpeggiator as an envelope. So I wonder. There we go. So we initialize. If we turn all of the matrix off, they're going to be off even if they get assigned. So now, again, you might say like, well, that's just an LFO. Yes, practically yes. But what if we do this? Right? So this is actually very cool. So I would like this to be like this. Let's see. No, actually like this. Right? So this. Right? But you can also change the shape of this. So these little triangles will allow you right? And suddenly, things are going on. But prepare to be amazed. If you use your mouse wheel here, you're going to add more of this. I mean, come on, isn't that awesome? Oh my god, it's sounding awesome. And I'm like the most noob guy that you can ever find on sort of step sequencer and stuff, but it's really cool. And remember this, I'd better save. This is just stepper A. So you have B, C, and D. And you could have, for example, shape B affect the resonance, right? So we have nothing on B. We could have, for example, B go like this. So we go shape sequencer B. Right? So now what's going on here? Here we're having the shape sequencer B affect the resonance only when the green ticks are lit. Right? And we could even change, for example, let's change the width with shape C or the detuning, but we're gonna use a different time base. So these are gonna be, for example, quarter notes, single. So then let me take this guy out. I think we can do even more than one parameter. And we can even do panning with A. Right? And then we're gonna drop in the sub-oscillator. And remember, this is completely without effects, right? So these sequencers are awesome. I think the other thing that I really like about these is that we're using, for example, A, we could use D, and we could put these on 16th, but we can have it go randomly. So for example, the resonance could be random, and this could be back and forth. It could be, for example, going backwards. And remember, one shot, you see it keeps going until the sound is completely dead, even if the gate is closed. One by one, every time you trigger, oh my God, this is awesome. He's gonna pick the next step. This is really, people, this is the reason why with the function generator Hive is able to do these sort of evolving things. So like, it looks entirely normal until you get to these two things and you're like, oh my God, right? And then you have a one random, so he's gonna pick just one. But every time you press a note, it's gonna go there. So we could go one random and we can go random. I actually like loop. Sounds already, I mean, we only have a sawtooth that like 4 unison, and that's it. Even shape C, we could go, I don't know, we have one single oscillator, come on. And this could even be, for example, we can even, one thing I haven't told you is that the filters can go in series. So you can go filter 1, and if you turn on filter 1, now filter 2 is gonna get fed by filter 1. So filter 2 happens after the result of filter 1. So that's pretty cool. And the step sequencer is a very customizable thing. Again, you can ramp up the waveform, so you can increase the cycle, you can change whatever you want. So you start from a segment type and then you go crazy on it. And you have 4 of them and they're gonna be affected by it. You can even use the shape sequencer as an input for your function generator. So I'm really curious to scope these and see where this is going. So I want to see, for example, shape A. Shape A is this guy. I want to see shape A up here. And no, I want to see shape A instead of LFO1. Okay, so this is our sequencer A. And then I want to see function 1 envelope, for example. Or, yeah. So function 1 envelope, every time this thing is moving, he's doing his thing. How about function 1 still? So he's gonna register information only when our sequencer is holding still. So it's, you know, let's go envelope and see. So every time the data is static, he's gonna go boop there. So with an attack and decay, obviously, that are sort of smoothing out the values. So how about we use this still to change the cutoff of filter 2. So you see now the shape is completely different. Let's bring this guy in. Right, let's go 16. Let's go a lot of them. And we can go very long attack and decay, and so now right, we're going halfway through. If I change it to step sequencer C, you know, we have this different behavior that follows that. So I think this is the most important part of Hive. And the second one is something we haven't taken a look at, which is the waveforms in their wavetable subcategory. So here, let's go back to just take this guy out. So we have no filter 1. Then we have, I just want to reset it normally. Well, let's take, so we initialize all of our matrix. Initialize all of matrix here. Right. So do we have a matrix B? No. Okay. We have up to 12 matrix generators here, you see. So 2 panes of 6. And this is still assigning to that filter, but obviously we have nothing coming through filter 2, so it's, you know, it's not working. That's fantastic. So what do we want to do? If we want to use wavetables, then we take Hive to a completely different level, which is like a lot of other synthesizers that in a lot of electronic music are very, very sought after. So you still have control over unison, but you also have the position that you can change. So when you switch position of this guy, you're oh, that sounds fantastic. So for example, you have a smooth box. But you can change the position of that, or you can use aggressors, for example, and you can obviously change this. So if you go LFO position and we change this to sine, it should work somehow. Does it? Yes. How do we change this? Yeah, with the quantity over the matrix or the red dot. So we're now switching the waveform. There we go. That's pretty smooth now. And obviously if you go random hold, we're using the LFO there, and we could use a function generator for the wavetables, so you can have wavetables here. And remember the subwoofer, the sub oscillator, I have it with a subwoofer today, I don't know why, is also following the oscillator one in its waveform, which is wavetable, which is then gonna go position. So it's pretty intense. And you have a selection of wavetables that it's pretty insane. I mean, that's a lot of them. Tubular bells, hard scream, over chord saws. Let's try over chord saws here. And there we go. So we go smooth. And if you make a very, very subtle change, you can hear the sound is changing just a little bit, and the waveform is still coherent to the initial sound, which is really, really cool. So matrix controls here. For those of you who love pads, XY pads, you can assign something to a value. For example, you can edit these and you can say, okay, I want this label to be called you know, X1 or filter cutoff, and this one to be called, I don't know, oscillator depth, for example. So here you can say, okay, well, number one, I want to have as X1, you can have up to 4 controls here. So for example, if I want to reinitialize these guys to 0, I just want this to be the filter cutoff, for example. And it could be also the resonance. So I can rename this to filter, and the name you'll see here on the pad is filter. So nothing's really changing, but so here I have pan. I don't want pan. We said oscillator depth. So we go detune and we go width. And can I go like the number of unison voices? No. Okay. So let's keep 6 and let's try and go. You see the detuning is changing. Right? This can be done for everything, even effects. This is really, really cool. You can do it even for effects. So you have up to 4 destinations per direction. So you have 4 for X, 4 for Y1, and this is multiplied by 4. So there's a lot of possibilities. You can see all 4 of them at the same time. You can see them as knobs, so you can learn the parameters, you know, and use your control there. You can edit all of them in the matrix. It's really, really, really easy. I say it's also one of the easiest interface once you get around that. And if you want quick access to the controls like Control A or alternate or random, which for those of you who remember in Diva, we had these alternate, which is just gonna take, for example, the maximum and minimum values, and it's just gonna alter them. So we could use this, for example, for pan, and then we have so every time I, you know, press here, I have oscillator 1 pan. So I'm alternating between the mid value. You could go random. For example, here we just go random. Let's try and see how much we want it. And obviously these work also with random. Why do they work with random? Because if you want a via control, then you go random, oscillator 1 pan, and then you go function 2 fold, for example, or function or a modulator or an Lfos. So you're going via an Lfos 1 for random. So it's typical of synthesizers to have an input modifier go into a via and to a destination, because you add a secondary layer of movement. You hear now that the Lfos is, yeah, right? It's moving. But he's also affecting, if we go to the Lfos 1, we're also affecting, if you remember, the wavetable position. Just ever so slightly. So if we they sound very different. And if we go to the effects, which we haven't talked about, we have distortion, chorus, reverb, phaser, EQ, compressor, delay. The controls are not gonna move, so you're always gonna find EQ, for example, here. Never on top, never on the bottom, never anywhere. But you're able to change the order of that. For example, I want reverb to be the last. I don't know. Usually. Not always, but right? Right? And this is a very convenient way to just tweak stuff. I won't really go in detail with all the effects because you know what these are. Distortion has amount and tone, chorus is rate and depth, phaser is a phaser. We all know that U-he effects sound great. I mean, zebra that we saw on the first time is also capable of becoming an effect. You have a sort of a zebrify kind of thing, so you can add it as an insert and you can use the effects there. And since I am an, delay aficionado, people, we go quarter note, then we go a triplet. Let's try it. See, clean sounds completely different. Let's go an octave below. And it sounds really cool. Now, these are all the effects, and they're all cool. There's one more thing that's gonna just make your head go boom. The wavetables can be completely changed. So you can go wavetable 1 or 2, and you can change. Well, first off, you can see the position better here, right? So this specific wavetable is capable of doing this, for example, when you switch position. But you can have the position work on off, so it's, affected, it's static. But you can have it as a one shot, so you see it's moving regardless. It's a typical one shot of my, letting go of the key. You can loop it forward or forward and backward. You can change the tempo. You can have the interpolator. I'll talk about these in a second. Changes crossfade, switch, and stuff. You can have you can set the table manually. You can actually have more than one table work in simultaneous way. So let's take a look at the interpolator first. Here we're crossfading, right? We're smoothly going from one value to the other. But if we switch, we're not going in between values. We're just going there. If we go spectral, we are, I think, sort of like interpolating even more. So like the phase is coherent every time the wavetable crosses 0. I don't remember the manual, but it's like an additional layer of interpolation. Man, it looks beautiful. It's like a lava lamp mesmerizing thing. And if we go 0 phase, I think there will be like a phase coherence between the values. Yeah. I mean, they look different. They sound different. Ooh. We can even add more tables. So we're now switching things on one table only. But if we switch to 2 tables now, you see that we have, if we go to crossfade, we have 2 controls. So here we're increasing how much we're adding on the x-axis, and here we're adding things on the y-axis. So we can go up to 16 tables where, this is how you achieve those drones that just don't go anywhere, but they're amazing and they're drenched in reverb. And a lot of dark ambient friends that I have, like they swear by Hive. They know how to use it from the inside out, and it's part of that. It just comes from the wavetable behavior. So you can reverse it. Obviously, if we move it, for example, if we want an LFO to be here on position, obviously you can. So here we're going. You see how complicated this can be, but it also it's effortlessly working. Yeah, it's like so organic and it's still in clean. What happens if I go dirty? I like normal so much, I have to say, because it has that spiky resonance, which is very 90s. Let's try some effect. Oh, it's fantastic. It can go on for hours. So wavetable 1, obviously you can do the same for wavetable 2. So more than one table, more positions, you can reverse, you can go cyclic on the second table control. So here, you're gonna cycle back and forth. You're not gonna go, 0, 100, 0, 100. You're gonna go back and then forward. It's intense. This is really the core of where things can get complicated, but can make your sounds evolve so much, for sure. So what else is left here to talk about? Well, the effects, the scope, the arpeggiator and sequencer. So basically you have an arpeggiator. We should reset things a little bit. Let me turn off this matrix. Right? Well, that's an arpeggiator. You can sync it. If you sync it, your sequencer will start and it will be strict. So bar 1 will have, those the beats will correspond to your DAW. If you don't sync it, you still have a clock divider and time base that works. But it's not synced bar by bar to what the arpeggiator is doing. And with every, it happened pretty much on every synthesizer that U-he makes. You have direction as played up and down 1 or 2 or random. You can play with more octaves. You can go serial. You can go around the values. You can jump octaves, so you can have a chord be spread over different octaves. And you can set this to restart after a specific number of notes. So, for example, 4, right? If you go 2 octaves, I'm playing 4 notes times 2, it becomes 8, right? But if I say 5, you have to restart every 5. Right? So you have these movements, which already sounds amazing. The difference in this guy is that you have a sequencer, which is linked to the arpeggiator, but is actually a different thing. So you can turn off the arpeggiator and have a sequencer, which you can even record. For example, all right? So then you take play, and when you play, as with every sequencer that maybe Rolandish guy, you have a gate, so you decide how much you want to be, and you have velocity, you have a dynamic velocity, which is going to affect the way you play with the synthesizer in. So the MIDI velocity is going to affect the velocity of the sequencer. You can decide how many steps you want, from 2 to 16. You can shift them. So, value 1 is going to go to 2, 2 to 3, or 3 to 1. You're just going to shift it, basically. And you have a transposition, but you also have modulation, people. So here you can even use the sequencer as a modulator source. So you can assign, for example, here, let's start on number 5 and say that the sequencer modulator is going to affect the cutoff, right? So now, you see, right? So the sequencer outputs gate with a note, but it also outputs modulation values. So you can use modulation values for it, and it just sounds great. And you can obviously use the modulation value for whatever. You can say, sequencer modulation or sequencer gate has to be used by the function generator. So, or whatever, you can have the, I don't know, you can have function generator 1 envelope be using the sequencer mod, and then function generator 2 use the function 1 envelope to just calculate move or envelope values. I mean, so, you know, they're in chain one after the other. It's immense. You know, if you want to get there, I mean, plus the XY, it's really, really, you know, I would say it's pretty, for one very small interface with a very discrete generation of signal, OS1 and 2, filter 1 and 2, it gets pretty complicated. I think the evolving factor is what makes Hive very, very, you know, appreciated and very sought after in people that like droney thing. It has a very solid start point of generation, and then it gets really really complicated in how the parameters get modulated. While, for example, Diva is more of a classic thing with the few parameters that really sound great and old school, and with the limitations that you have, you can make your own sounds, you know, be great and awesome. And Zebra has that modular palette of modules that go everywhere. So they're very different, very complementary to each other. And we have only seen 3, for example. So if we slow this out, and we, you know, we can even use some steps. Let's go time base 16 steps. And we go a little bit less. Or we can go 8 and we just go even less. Right? It just has that very slight movement, which is fantastic. What else? Is there anything else? Oh, yes. Every single parameter you see here has oftentimes a triangle. So this drop-down menu allows you to save presets within a preset. So you can say, okay, I like this LFO 1, and I'm going to use it every time I have this specific, I don't know, plucked sound, whatever. You can save the configuration of that one LFO, and that one's going to be able to just get loaded in. So for example, you have blubber. Blubber is, you know, this sort of LFO. So if we assign it to the resonance, and we can double up, right? Gate 116 here. Where's our T sequencer? Hold on. It's gotta be here in some matrix that we set up. LFO oscillator 1 pan. Okay, no, I want LFO 1 go resonance. Alright, no phase, no rate. Alright, it was pretty slow, so that's why it wasn't working. You can see we can. So this thing you can also quantize, so you can have steps within the values of the oscillator, the LFO, which is, for example, fantastic because you can go in fifths. And if we would use these for a pitch, for tuning, for example, for the tuning of our sub oscillator, and we don't go random, we go quantize steps of fifth. Okay, we go LFO 1. You hear it, right? It's quantizing itself. And for droning people, this is awesome also. They really... Here, it's going in, what did I choose? Like fifths. It's perfect fifths going up. You can go overtone, you can go minor scale, minor series. So it's like a diminished scale. You can go major series. It's like half, whole tone, maybe? No, it's like a major third series. And then you can go, for example, minor scale. Let's try it. Come on. This is just... hear the reverb. The tail is great. Obviously, you can have LFO2 modulate the tone of the distortion. Why not, right? So, or you could have an EQ and you can have some mid, but you want to use the shape 1, for example, to change the mix. The frequency, the peak frequency of your mid frequency boost. Come on, isn't that awesome? So what's going on here is that we're using sequencer mod right, exactly. We can have a second parameter, so I'm gonna go for bass as well, actually with the amount of distortion, right? And, ooh, we can even have a slew rate, and we have a secondary parameter. We can even compress the amount, we can expand it, if you were wondering what these little lines are. I mean, come on. And we can have shape D, shape C, for example, alter, what could we do? The position. So, one single note. And one oscillator, people. This is one oscillator. How about we use oscillator 2? We could use this without, moving. I think we have something in Matrix 1 where we are affecting this, right? Filter 2. Where is this guy? Filter 2. Where are you, filter 2? Oh, yeah, of course, it's in here. So, oscillator 2, I would like to have it like very slow. And moving just ever so slightly. Look at this, it's fantastic. Come on. So this is our source. It's a very, right, deep kind of sound. Right? And it's like very simple, but just very slowly moving up. And then we're adding this. This is the LFO1 is quantizing the subtune by fifths, right? A minor scale, okay. So now we have a fundamental note. How about we try I put it, I took the sub oscillator, but I put it 19 semitones up, so it's actually a fifth above the octave. This. Right? And we keep the same thing we had before. Now I want the LFO to also trigger work on the volume to make the sub oscillator go up and down. So sometimes the harmonic content just shifts ever so slightly. See? And has this minor quality because the oscillator is... Ooh, should save this patch. It's a healing process. It just sounds awesome, and I would like to just point out that the effects that U-he does should not be underestimated. Like, some people do synthesizers and they say, well, you know, we drop in effects, but let's not work on that too much because people are gonna use their own effects, their own distortion, their own EQ, their own chorus, their own reverb. What I really like about U-he plugins is that you really have effects that are so beautifully sounding and so musical. And I think that you can have the most amazing synthesizer, but if you have zero effects on it, you're either gonna be super old school or it's never gonna be able to breathe as much. So if, you know, we take the global effects off, this sounds pretty good already, right? But you contextualize it. I mean, don't tell me you don't see the skyscrapers, the flames, the spaceships going around or stuff. I don't know, little cars going everywhere, weird advertising, you know, something like that, typical cyberpunk. It opens up like a fade in to picture. It's great. I think we covered pretty much everything. Yes, we did. So we didn't get to write much, but this patch kind of really sounds great. So I should save this. Let me just do something. Where's my Cubase project here? Let me duplicate this guy. I don't want to lose this. Oh my god, it sounds fantastic. Let's browse through the different patches. There's some stuff, as I said, that I wanted to write just very quickly. And there's, oh my god, the presets by itself are fantastic. So we have search, saved searches, favorites, tags, and blah, blah, blah. That, like, typical browser, very functional. But there was, I have to bear with me. I'll have to find out some of the sounds. There was one sound that I wanted to open up with. I think was something like here. Was in the basses. I mean, you get a chance to listen to these people. This is so fantastic. No, there was a... This kind of cool. Well, okay, let's start from the pad. I have this idea. Could be cool. Let me start. Oh, that could also work. Okay, I have to use two hands, people. Almost, but not quite. Let me see where the modulation will stand. This will be something very dark. So pads and strings, keys. Obviously, I should have saved. This, I mean, come on, this works great. Not the sound I was looking for. Not the droids I was looking for, though. These are mostly bass leads. I already know what I want to write, so I'm just looking for some sounds. There we go. This could be. So. This works. So Sneaky's Weeper. So let me think about the tempo. I know how to tap tempo. Tempo changes. Activate tempo control. So I will say like 80. No. 72. Too fast. Sorry, 68. Also not the same. Plaques, loops, effects. Has to be somewhere. Somewhere. I think 68 is pretty much there. It's funny that I'm going through sounds that are completely. No, it has to be pads. Alright, this is good. This is good. Skip Blue Star. So let me see. We can track it at 68 and then see. I still think it's kind of fast. Try 65. Okay, could work, but I still think it could be faster. Why not try 60? Man, that's slow. Alright, let's try 50, although we could go double tempo, maybe 58 or something. Has to be really, really slow. I won't quote you on what this thing is. Maybe some of you will know. Okay, let's segment this. Let's do this first. I don't think we need, maybe I want to make my envelopes fixed because like the MIDI notes pretty much fixed this way. Let's see, zoom in. This guy's gonna start here and finish here. Let's see, without click usually you get things sound better. Here. There we go, exactly. So I want a little bit more amp. So this one's okay, maybe it's this one. Okay. I think 58 is gonna work better. Ooh, I introduced something. So let's duplicate this guy and let's play the bass, which should keep a low D. Now there was a sound that we really liked. I really liked. Was it in basses? No. Man, I completely forgot. See, you never... There's a lot of them. This is also very nice. Why am I finding now all of them? See, I mean, layering is the art of... Let's go here. Right. So... And this is like the perfect tag to have, but I need way more amp. So... There we go. Usually one of the two amplifiers is gonna work. Now it's a little bit thin, not spread out. Almost. And it's pitching somewhere. Who's this guy? I think it's this sawtooth. There we go. I gotcha, huh? So you gotta be 0, my friend. You see how by knowing what's going on, you can pinpoint stuff. You can't just go random. There's still a little bit of detuning, but I think it's... Yeah, it's the other sub-oscillator. Come here. I like that it's low I here. Right, alright. Right, maybe a bit more reverb. Reverb is always here. You see how the character changes. Alright, good. We need bass. We need this D note, which I could even play now. Alright. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. Go here. Extend this guy here. Quantize this guy. Move it here. And then close these people and go here. Right? We need 4 bars of this. And we gotta find a bass sound that works. Again, I had kind of something in mind, but no. I found the sound that I wanted to start with. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. So let's move these people here. Let's move it here. It's Dirty Cog. It's Dirty Cog, people. It's not the bass that I wanted, but so no. This them here. So I want to start this. So this would be the start. Like, you won't believe when I wanted to do this. I was going to sleep yesterday and I already kind of know the form of this song. Right? But what we're going to do is we're going to make it even more no release. Like, it has to be very disturbing, like... Right? So... Man, that's slow. Alright, how do we do that though? No, with the metronome going on. Yeah, why not? Right, let's try this. Quantize, put me in the end here. Let me try and see if we just shorten these guys, so. Yeah. Like a sort of like a double tempo kind of thing. So 2 of them. Right, but the bass has not to be that. So this guy here, let me find another bass. Could also have been this, and then we can put a delay like something super crazy, but not that. So let's find something that works on these people here. Everything would, but we're gonna keep these, right? So 90s bass. So I'm not even renaming stuff, people. This. We don't actually need bass. It's bass from a pad. There we go. So it's a single note. How about Ether Sphere? That's it. We use this. I decided. Right? We don't even wait. What am I, 16? Come on. I like that you can drag over the interface, and Cubase allows you to be reckless this way. Now, we have to write the modulation, people. That's important. Yeah. But this thing is twice as long. I could really edit one of the two. Let's see. Here. Yeah. Still thinking we might not add this. Right, so let's clean these up. Let's go back, write the modulation. I have no idea. I should go backwards because when I go down on the modulation, it opens up. So yeah, so that's where I should start here. No. I don't want to write these. I want to override these. Right here. Boom. How cool. How cool. Now, in the interest of life and death, this thing is going to loop and we're going to add another element. So I don't think this will work. Where's this guy? Here. Maybe not this. We were here, right? But maybe a lower one. Maybe a lower one. I think maybe it's too much. We'll go pure. How about we shift this guy? See? We compress it. We have the power to do that. Now you might think like, oh, why would you want to compress a synth? For this exact reason, I don't want the harmonics to pump up too much. I have to kind of live in the same environment, right? Might be cool. I have no idea whether you people have already gotten where this is going, but no, hold on. I only copied the modulation. We have to glue things. This is Cubase. Glue this guy to death. Glue this. No. How skilled am I on this, right? Oh, well, yes, but not really, because this is 12 up. So either we go here, boom. All right, so we did write modulation for this guy. I don't think we need the same modulation. So let's go here. Let's take out the presets. Let's go to keys. We need to go. Right. But not this guy. Here. Here. No, here, sorry. Here. Right, ever so slightly. Okay. So then we let it go. Then we let it sink. I have to remember I have it in my head. So. Right? That could be it. That could be it. Everybody's silent. Right? Now, show you what's going on here. Quantized. Let me go back here. Right, but we need to be faster now, I think. Couple picks. Could even be like this, honestly. Sometimes you don't need to reinvent. I mean, come on, freebies. So we do this, we erase this. There's something about the field, though, that in the way I had played it was better. It's just, I wonder if it's a timing feel. Let me see. It's gonna be like slightly here. Feels to me as if it would be like a tempo thing, right? But we're not gonna do that. Let's try this. So let's start from here. Definitely I want this to happen, for sure. How about this? And we do this, but here we're gonna change. We're gonna do. We're gonna change immediately. Let's try this. So let me record this. Yes, this. Okay. We take these out. It's just gonna be based on atmospheric. So we like this. What's that note? No, it's that note. Ah, I played 2 times. What did I erase here? Do this. So this guy, quantize it, put in here. Gotta be careful when coming out of the gotta come out of here because of the release, right? Had played lower D. I don't know if I want that. But it could also be, yes. It's kind of a high, a little bit too high, the velocity here, right? So let's cut it a little bit. Really like the Midi in Cubase. Okay, and then here we change. Oh my god, I hope I remember that. It was... So, I forgot, I already forgot. I would say just that. So it could be... Oh, there we go. Okay. Better record this. It's gotta forget. So. No, I already kind of forgot. I told you. 2, 3, 4. Okay, I think I missed just one note according to what I wanted. So let's, as usual, quantize this, put in here. I don't know if I'm... Okay. So I play... Oh, I missed a note here. Hold on. Right. This one. This should be A. And maybe this should be B flat indeed. So... yeah, it's gotta start like that. But before I had... yeah, I would kind of invert this. I like this to be this, actually. Want an F and a C here. Without bass, it's kind of hard not to figure it out, but it's gonna be still a D pedal. Could also change, I don't know. Let me try and duplicate this guy without that and try and see. Get out of the pedal, maybe not. Let's try this. So it would be now. So we do anticipate these. I kind of... okay, with bass it sounds better if we just go this route. Let me see this bass. So... Could be that. Could be that. No, gotta wait. So here, go. Yeah, B flat. Okay, almost. Don't quite like the bass here, no. So, well, here, yes. It's G. We go to the B flat. We could go to F. Okay. Actually, we have D, we could go B flat. We go to the B flat, we go to D, okay. Could be that? No. F. Still G. Yes. So it's G, B flat, G, F. I would say let's record this, and then would be something else because I forgot. Okay, and we'll start like right on 37 here. And how long have we been here? 4, 2 minutes. I don't have a ruler. Get on here. Add ruler track. Now these has to be seconds. That's right. 2 minutes 20. So that's pretty much done. In terms of structure, I only don't like this bass a little bit. Hold on. This one I like. Quantize it. Here, this kind of note could it be? Could be F. Why can it be F? Forgot what. Yes, but how about it's actually G? Could work. We're gonna move it here. think we have it. It's just 2 notes. Okay. Kinda don't like one thing here. How about we keep... I don't know. Will it work with the super D here? No. This part here. This one I quite don't like. Why is that? I think maybe we need a D flat? B flat? No, not this one, the bass. I think I solved it. Not going randomly, people. There's a reason. And then drops on the D. Tune, doo, doo. Tune, doo, doo. Can be as long or be as dependent as we want, but no, this should be floating there, and we just drop the D maybe here. Right, so they end, and we could start with it. Okay, that could be cool. Okay. Sometimes I really don't like overusing them. See? Doesn't work. Doesn't work as prescribed. Okay, that could work. Let me see with a little bit of a... Could be both. I have no idea. Okay, how did we do it here? We didn't do the double note. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I think we kind of need both here as well, right? Right on, right on. So we have the structure down. That's what I wanted to. Cool. Duplicate this. We're gonna add some elements just before I forget, and then we're gonna close it here. There's one version where there's gonna be strings, but right, so we're gonna add it here. So we don't get this guy in before this chord. Here. Because that G minor over D is really what makes the chorus change. You know, just that gives so. Right here, we're gonna add that just coming in there. Ooh, feather touch, people. Feather touch. You selected feather touch. I want to glue everything. I don't know if you figured out what the theme is, but I won't tell you. I don't care. So now we need one more hive here to bring in something cooler. And then we're gonna close this thing. Let me go to presets. Man, it's all written. It's all written with. Let's go with monoliths, polyleads. No, paths, keys. Oh, could be even a more lead. But I wanted something lower. Okay, this could work. This could work. What sound is this? Zinc. Zinc. I mean, come on. These are awesome sounds. Even Airmonger. Okay, I want to keep these. But want to change this guy. It's funny you're working with me. I had to do it anyway. Okay, me likes. Let's try this. This could be it. We only need just a little bit of... do we want to change this? Yes. I can't believe this is quantized. To me, it sounds kind of weird. But I want to do legato. Right on. Now the notes are legato. I know why. It's my mythical way of playing the bass there. I really can't believe that. To me this sounds fine. Let me bring this guy back too. Probably what it has to be, right? know what we're gonna do here? We're gonna pan pot the hell out of this guy. So do we have a very slow LFO? Yes, we do. Do we have a way to pan this guy? Yes, we do. So we're gonna go to matrix. Man, they used it all. Come on. Oh my. Really? Holy. How do we do that? How do we do that? I want to automate this. Oh, hold on. VCO glide, phaser wet, oscillator 2. Man. Okay, let's try velocity gate, key follow, amp release, the position. I want it to random glide. Okay, maybe we sacrifice this guy. LFO 1, no pressure. We go for pan 1 and pan 2. Pan 2. Pan 2. So here we go backwards. And here we go forward. Let's try and see how these sound. Maybe LFO 2 is faster. It's not that bad. Right? I'm not using any plug. That's fantastic. Want to compress this? It's very, very... Right. How about a delay thing? It's the only effect I haven't used. The delay we're gonna put here. Right? 8 notes. Right. Right. So we're compressing before delay and reverb, so we have a coherent. Ah, yes. It's exactly what I wanted. Man, I can't believe this is coming out so easily. That's just Hive, people. We're using like how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tracks. So now I don't need to push this. Right, so if I do maybe I don't need to push these that far, but I'm not sure, so I'm gonna drag it down here because I'm lazy. Right. Let's try this. No. I like this pattern. Yes, my little scissors gonna come in handy. I use this. There's a version where there's gonna be brass on this G minor, like a very strong note, and it's just gonna land there. And there's like spiccato strings, but it starts from the old school. I have to do this version old school, and then there's gonna be more. So it's 7. Let's hear where I got here, people. And whether I like this better than... So, needs more feedback, for sure. Because we're playing less, so we need more. Does it make sense? We're playing less, so we need more. Here. Beauty of copy-paste. Now, this is the question. Was it better when I was doing this? So like this, I don't know. Now, I want to ask you a question before this stream ends. Do you hear a choir? Because there's no choir, but maybe you do hear a choir. I do hear a choir, and some people might say, oh, there's a choir patch. There's no choir patch. There might be a wavetable of a vox something, so a vocal formant or stuff, but there's no choir, but I do hear it. So it's just a matter of starting here or here. All right, one more track here. Who's this guy? All right, here, yes. Okay. The only thing, we don't need it that way. Like very smooth. A little bit less vibrato. I don't dislike that. It's opening and closing a bit too much. Who's doing this mod envelope? You see what it means to know the synth you're playing with. You can use presets, but if you don't know where to put your hands, you're just gonna be browsing presets, and that is bad. People usually waste a lot of time behind that. So normal, we remember, has a little bit of that high frequency shift. You hear it, right? Like it's a lot of 3K, 2K, something. So let's do this. How about we go even longer, because this is gonna pierce through our... So how about we do harmonize it? So instead of going... Oh, it could even be lower. We don't harmonize it, we just stay lower. I wish I had recorded that, but now I'm gonna fix it. Not bad, but let me replay it. No, sorry. Okay. These I very much like. However, this has to be played, I think, quarter past. 2 quarters past. Let's try this. Yes. Yes, I like it much more. So with this final phrase, here. I would do this here. All right, but just delay the time here. Yes, like something like this, like a 5/4. Or maybe not even, like a deleting time like this. Yes. And I want to duplicate this guy, and I want to try and put some more reverb here. So reverb, but with a lot of pre-delay. Let's try. Right. A lot of it. And sort of mono-ish, right? How about we prolong this? So we do this. It's gotta be 1 full bar plus that. Right. So it's gotta be 1 full bar plus that. Here. It's like a tempo change, but right. And the last one, we're gonna take this final note, just that, and we're gonna use a lot more reverb here. That was cool. No, no delay. Yeah. And cut. All right, that was quite a journey. We wrote what I had in mind to write, and we kind of gave it to, how long is this thing? The loop says around, we started bar 3, so we were around 3 minutes something, so it's perfect. It's perfect. It's exactly what I wanted to do. No drums, very old school, just Hive. So I'm gonna put it soon somewhere else. And so thank you very much for joining me and for staying here after for the creation phase. I hope you liked what Hive has to do. I certainly do, and you notice that just using Hive, just single instances for doing some very kind of old schoolish 90s synth stuff, and it just works. It just works, and you don't need effects. You don't need much more than what it has to offer, which is quite a lot. So we didn't use any buses, any effects, anything that would, we didn't even color the tracks, and it just sounds fantastic. And it has exactly the kind of 90s sound that synths like Hive are very in request and in demand for. So it's the wavetable synthesis brings us immediately to that 90s sound. But because of the envelopes and stuff, we still have a lot of way to mutate the sound, and we can drone stuff as I showed you, and it starts from a very solid start point and it goes into modulation heaven. So I hope you liked it. Thank you very much for joining me, and we'll see each other in the next exploration series. So stay safe, everybody, and have fun. Enjoy your week. Bye-bye.